The next important concept we need to know is about acid-base balance. As I have told earlier, carbon dioxide forms an integral part of this acid-base balance. Now let us see what this acid-base balance means. When we look at the parameters that we measure in arterial blood gas, there are cations and anions in the blood. Cations are the ions which have got a plus sign on them, like sodium and calcium, and anions are the ones which have got a negative sign, that is chloride and bicarbonate. When we add these two, you will find that the cations, that is the bases, are in excess than the anions. So the reason for this being that the proteins like albumin and globulins, they also carry negative ions, but we are not measuring them. So there is a gap, and this gap is called as the anion gap, or in common words it is called as a base excess, because there is excess of bases. Now this is important because sometimes this base excess increases. For there is a buildup of acid like lactic acid that also carries a negative ion. So when that lactic acid increases, then the base excess increases on the negative side. So you will find a base excess of -8, -10, -12. What that suggests is that the acid component of the blood is increasing and the base component has come down. So this situation where there is a negative base excess is called metabolic acidosis. Whereas a reverse can happen when the cations can increase and the anions can reduce, and this is called metabolic alkalosis. The reverse of this, now the body's compensatory mechanism works in such a way that when there is a problem with metabolic problem, that is either metabolic alkalosis or metabolic acidosis, it compensates with the breathing mechanism. So by acting or using carbon dioxide as a currency, it tends to compensate, do the opposite thing of what is happening in the metabolic side. So in a patient who has got metabolic acidosis, because the acid levels are increasing and carbon dioxide equals to acid, so what the body tries to do is it tries to expel more carbon dioxide. So if a patient who is in metabolic acidosis and if he is not ventilated, you will find that the patient will be breathing fast and he will be trying to get rid of carbon dioxide from his body. So this is a common thing in diabetic ketoacidosis, where patients will be doing rapid shallow breathing because in their blood keto acids have increased in level, and because to compensate for the acidosis, body is trying to remove more carbon dioxide, and this situation is called respiratory alkalosis. So an opposite situation happens when patient has more alkali or base in their blood, the respiratory rate is reduced and they tend to breathe slowly, and the number of breaths per minute will come down, and this is called respiratory acidosis. So this is the compensatory mechanism that is happening in the body. When there is metabolic acidosis, it compensates by respiratory alkalosis, and when there is metabolic alkalosis, it compensates by respiratory acidosis. And the reverse is also true. So if a patient is having breathing problems, either they are breathing fast or if they are breathing slow, some conditions like poliomyelitis or paralysis of phrenic nerve, in those situations the respiratory rate comes down and the CO2 levels increase, and that causes acidosis of the blood, and that situation is called respiratory acidosis. When that happens, the kidneys will stop excreting the bicarbonate and start collecting the bicarbonate in the blood, and that is called metabolic alkalosis. So kidneys will step in when the lungs are giving a problem, and when blood and other organs are giving a problem, the lungs will step in to compensate. So it is very important to know this, how the compensatory mechanisms are acting in order to treat a patient with acidosis or base excess. Most commonly following cardiac surgery, what we find is that the negative base excess, that is acidosis, is a common finding rather than alkalosis. Metabolic or respiratory alkalosis only happens in rare situations when the patient has been ventilated for a longer time or has been treated with diuretics for a longer time. More commonly, we find the metabolic acidosis is a common finding, and commonly why it happens is because of low perfusion state, low cardiac output. The blood passage through the arteries and tissues takes a prolonged time, so all the oxygen is taken away in the initial parts of the tissue, and the later parts of the tissues will be doing more of anaerobic metabolism because there is no oxygen, but still there is available glucose and all. So they take into anaerobic metabolism, and in anaerobic metabolism what happens is the glucose is breakdown is only stopping with glycogenolysis, so glucolysis, and so the end product will be pyruvate, which ultimately goes into become lactate. In aerobic metabolism, the glucose is converted to pyruvate. Pyruvate goes into Krebs cycle and ultimately is converted into carbon dioxide and water. When oxygen levels are low, glucose is broken down only up to pyruvate and is converted to lactate, which accumulates in the blood as lactic acid, which is again one of the parameters that we can measure in the blood gases. So whenever there is metabolic acidosis, if the ABG machine can tell you about the lactate levels, it is worth measuring the lactate levels, because that will give you an idea of the component of metabolic acidosis that is being contributed by lactate. So whenever such a situation happens, the treatment commonly in ICUs is that people respond by giving bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate infusion. Now, sodium bicarbonate infusion is good as a temporary measure, but that is not the correct way to treat it, or not the method of treatment always. Wherever possible, whenever a patient is in metabolic acidosis, try and identify the cause of the problem, treat the patient physiologically, and see if you can correct the acidosis physiologically rather than resorting to use of bicarbonate. Because use of bicarbonate, all it does is temporarily makes the pH normal and makes you feel that okay, you have corrected everything, but you have not actually corrected the pathophysiology that is causing the acidosis, and so the acidosis is going to come back. And what is worse is that you have delayed. Now, unless you address the pathophysiology, like if it's a hypotension or bleeding or excess glucose levels or low oxygen levels, these things would have, just by giving bicarbonate, you have delayed by another hour or till the next ABG, treating the actual condition, which can make the patient's condition worse. So whenever you see acidosis, try and identify why this patient is developing metabolic acidosis and treat it and ensure that the acidosis is corrected physiologically rather than just giving bicarbonate as a knee-jerk reaction. Bicarbonate should be given only in situations where the acidosis is so severe that it is going to take a long time for physiological correction, and the acidosis is affecting the functioning of ionotropes, or acidosis is going to affect the blood pressure or hemodynamics of the patient in the immediate period. In such situations, you can correct with bicarbonate, knowing very well and understanding that you are identifying the pathophysiology and simultaneously correcting it. You give bicarbonate so that the patient will benefit it rather than just give bicarbonate. So remember this as this thing, even in the middle of the sleep, if someone wakes you up, you need to know that treatment for metabolic acidosis is not just giving bicarbonate. It is a very important concept. I want all of you to know this and practice it. Now we need to apply our common sense and use our judgment whenever such situations happen. It is in medicine, and particularly in intensive care, never let anyone tell you that this is the only way to treat a patient. You need to understand that there are multiple ways of treating a patient, and you need to tailor make what is right for this particular patient and then use it. So there are no hard and fast rules, but as long as you understand what you are doing and it is not going to compromise the outcome, you are free to treat the patient in the way that you have been trained or in the way that you think is the best way possible. Just a word about common reasons why metabolic acidosis happens. There are only 2 or 3 reasons. One is if patient is a diabetic and if he's already got high sugar levels, despite a good blood pressure, still the acidosis can happen because of the high sugar levels. There is a significant amount of anaerobic glycolysis that is happening, and so lactic acid buildup is there. So in such situations, the treatment will again not be bicarbonate, but to correct the sugar levels by giving boluses of insulin, increasing the insulin infusion level, and making sure that the sugars are less than 180 milligrams per dl, and that automatically brings down the lactic acid levels and then gives the patient the physiological treatment. The second reason why commonly acidosis happens in cardiac surgical patients is because of hypoperfusion. And hypoperfusion can happen because of hypovolemia, bleeding, again hypovolemia because of bleeding or excess urine output or vasodilatation or low cardiac output states, wherein the heart pumping is weak and they need a inotrope. One of the reasons why blood sugars can be high in post-operative cardiac surgical patients is because of the use of inotropes, particularly adrenaline and dobutamine and dopamine analogs. These inotropes, they tend to increase the blood glucose levels because they have an opposite effect of insulin. So it is very important to have an idea that okay, if a patient is already on high amounts of adrenaline and if he is having a low cardiac output state and if his sugars are high, you can expect that this patient can go into metabolic acidosis. And the treatment for that will be controlling the sugars, increasing the cardiac output with either by increasing the inotropes or some other mechanism, only resorting to bicarbonate if the base excess is more than -8, that is -10 or -12, then only give bicarbonate correction. But anywhere between -3 to -8, there is always room for physiological correction and never to resort to giving bicarbonate. By the way, the normal base excess levels are -3 to +3. So only to act on these if the base excess is anywhere further than this. And as I said, to give a resort to bicarbonate only if the base excess is more than -10. It's possible. As I had mentioned earlier, some of the ABG machines do give us lactate levels, and it is a good practice to measure lactate so that we can see the trend in how the lactate levels are behaving. If the lactate levels are increasing with each going ABG, that suggests to us that there is more of anaerobic metabolism, which most probably is because of low cardiac output. And hence in those situations we have to identify why that is happening and then treat it accordingly. And then you will find that the lactate levels keep coming down. So lactate levels up to 1 to 2 milligram per dl are acceptable in the post-operative situation, and anything more than that needs looking into. The last parameter that we can talk about in ABG is the hemoglobin. Many or all ABG machines do give us hemoglobin levels. Some machines only give hematocrit levels. So we need to know how to convert hematocrit into hemoglobin, and basically again what we are looking for is trends. So as soon as the patient comes to the ICU, the first ABG sets the goal post, and from then onwards if there is a steady drop in hemoglobin, then it is a suggestion that the patient could be bleeding or there is something else that is happening, and so we need to do a check where this hemoglobin loss is coming from. Sometimes it is very much possible that the blood sample has not been taken properly, because for each blood gas sample the nurses withdraw some certain amount of blood from the ABG, the arterial line, and then only take the sample. Now if they have not withdrawn adequate amount of saline from the heparinase saline from the arterial line, then the sample that they have taken could be diluted, and this can give a erroneously low hemoglobin level, but this is not to be believed. So you need to know when the nurse's expertise and how good or bad the sample is based on other parameters, and then use your judgment to see whether the sample needs to be repeated or whether it is a true reading that you are seeing. And a trend in lowering hemoglobin does suggest that the patient is bleeding. And this is a dictum in any ICU, is number one, not to treat numbers, but also it is very important to keep an eye on the trends. So if a trend is showing a particular direction, so if hemoglobin is dropping, urine output is dropping, and acidosis is building up, then there is a problem. Then that most likely the patient is bleeding, and so this patient will benefit from either giving volume or blood transfusion and identifying how bad the bleeding is, and sometimes may need re-exploration to stop the bleeding. So hemoglobin measurement in ABGs is also important, and to keep an eye on the trend is more important than individual values. Sometimes if the hemoglobin was 10 at the first ABG and the next ABG shows 5, then you need to seriously ask that whether this is a dilutional sample or if the patient has bled so much. So look for evidence for bleeding. First always think that there is a clinical reason before saying that this is a bad sample. So if the drains are not draining anything, milk the drains, make sure that the drains are empty, check the chest x-ray that there is no collection, and if all those things are correct, and then you have adequate, and the blood pressure has been maintaining well, and every other parameter tells you that there is no evidence of bleeding, then only say that this is an erroneous sample and then repeat the sample. So it is a matter of experience and use of common sense as to how to judge a particular ABG, and ABGs should not be treated on individual report, but a trend is what we should be looking for, and similar is any parameter that is being monitored in an ICU situation.